Hey there, it's your close personal friend Lou Brutus, joined by Alicia Taylor of Cherry Bombs. Alicia, it's good to see you. How are you?
Good. Thank you so much for having me. Can't complain.
I think what we need is a primer on Cherry Bombs because you guys present different facets of the band in different media and mediums. And I think it sometimes throws people for a loop. So if you would be so kind, give me the full overview and background history of Cherry Bombs.
Sure. Cherry bombs, the best way I have figured out how to describe it for people who have no idea what it is if you were to take the Pussycat Dolls, okay, as we know them, and combine it with Cirque du Soleil, and then you're putting it to all rock and metal music without the singing. Well, sometimes there's singing in it, but not as much. That's what the Cherry Bombs is. So it's essentially a variety show that is dance based with intricate choreography, but it also adds elements of cirque or circus arts. So you'll see a lot of fire arts, you'll see a lot of aerial arts, sideshow circusy stuff from back in the day, like ankle grinding. We have stilt walkers, you name it, we pretty much do it. So yeah, people are always kind of surprised to learn that. It's like, oh, what song do you guys, play, or what band are, who plays what instrument? And we're like, ooh, I play guitar on tour, but it's not really the basis of our show. It's really just a variety of performing arts, if you will. And that's about as best as I've come up with.
It's funny because when I had initial conversations about Cherry Bombs, when I first learned about you, I had friends who were perplexed by it. And where could you find people who can do this sort of stuff? I was like the exact opposite thinking, because I came from a theater background. I'm like, listen, there are tons of people who have all of these awesome talents and they have no fucking place to go to perform them. So tell me about the initial idea for sort of putting this together and making it a reality.
Well, I've been a dancer my whole entire life, and I've done every type of dance I could possibly get my hands on growing up. And then I took those talents to the NFL, where I was an NFL cheerleader for the Atlanta Falcons. And I did that for 3 years, and that was great for what it was, but it ran its course, and I was just tired of dancing to music that I wasn't passionate about. I was tired of performing dances that I wasn't passionate about. So I decided to make my own thing. And, you're a lover of all music, I know, but the one that really speaks to me as well is rock and metal. And that's what I'm passionate about. And that's what I wanted to perform to. And that's what I really wanted to have fun with. And so I was like, I'm just going to make my own show. I'm just going to make my own group, and we're going to do it like this. And I'd seen other groups do something similar, but there was something that was missing that I noticed in a lot of them, and it was the level of talent in all the worlds that they were trying to incorporate. I wanted to create the baddest, bestest group that I could. Like, if I were to take superheroes from every form of skill of talent that I was going to show in this performance, I wanted the best of each one. So I wanted the best aerialist, and I wanted the best singer, and I wanted the best dancers, and I wanted the best fire artists, and I just cherry picked them and put them all together and blended it together and created the show.
When you first started to put the show together, tell me about how the rehearsals went, because this is not like willy-nilly thrown together. This is, tightly choreographed, and also I think physically very demanding. Dancing is hard enough, but then when you put the other aspects into this, it can be brutal.
Yeah. Rehearsals are ran pretty well in that they're consistent all year round. So because some of these skills are complicated, dangerous, if you will, we need to stay up and we need to stay fresh on everything. So typically I like to run rehearsal year round, every week, whether we have a show or not. So that keeps everybody fresh. Because as you know, gigs will come up like that and you got to be ready to go. So instead of having to mull over choreography, I would rather focus on that throughout the year, have that well under our belts so it's second nature. And then when it comes to the more complicated acts like the fire and the aerial, we can focus our attention to troubleshooting those and figuring out how those are going to run safely for everybody, and make them bigger and better.
I would be curious to hear how you put together a running order. I almost said set list, and it's kind of,
it's set list.
but you know, because I've seen Cirque du Soleil and I've seen Penn and Teller, and I've seen other great live sort of non-musical acts that aren't like sort of straight plays or anything. And there's a real art, just like there is with a band, building up proper set list, doing a running order for the stuff that you guys do. I would have to think is a bit tricky. Tell me about that.
Honestly, it's one of my favorite parts of the process. I love picking music. I love discovering new music to play with and kind of bring it to an audience in a different way. So typically what I'll do is I'll think of the audience that I'm performing for, and I will build a set list. That's exactly what it is, based on the audience that we're going to be performing in front of and what I think that they like. And I typically have a good feel for that. So, you know, if we're doing a tour and we're opening for a band, I'll select music that kind of go well with that headlining act. In the case that we're headlining our own show, I get to have a little bit more freedom and I get to really play, and I just pick music that I personally really like. So with this new show that we have, it was a storyline that I'd written, and in regards to that, I just picked songs that fit with the storyline and kind of gave the feel or the emotion of what was happening in that story itself. So yeah, it's just kind of a different approach for every show, but it's a blast and I love it. And I love choosing songs that have a lot of texture in them. So a lot of different kinds of beats or syncopation in them, or musicality that you can pull kind of background beats out visually by accenting them with movement. And you can kind of pull that part of the song forward, if you will, for the audience to kind of hear a little bit better. And so all of that's just so much fun for me.
And Macabre, maybe we should move on to the film at this point, which I saw months ago originally.
Yes.
How would you describe it? I was reminded a little bit of some of the early Frank Zappa performance films. It's not nearly as bizarre as that or disjointed, but it is definitely something that you need to watch and pay attention to. But tell me about the project.
Man, again, that was another one that was really hard to come up with a thorough description of.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, how am I going to pitch this thing? Because it's.
I'm sorry to interrupt. When people ask me like, "What's in it? What's it like?" and I'm like, "Yeah, you just better fucking watch it. You know, just watch it and come back later. We'll talk about it. You know."
It's true. You really just have to watch it. And that's not unlike Cherry Bombs. Like with Cherry Bombs in itself, you just kind of have to see it to get it. And because if you've never seen it, you won't get it. And then once you do, you're like, oh, okay. Macabre itself, the virtual show, the best way I could describe it is if we were to take a set list of rock and metal songs and create a visual album out of this set list that told a story. I don't know. That's all I got. It's it's like a horror story kind of, but also it's not technically a musical, but it's, I don't know. I had an interview recently where I asked the guy, I said, have you ever seen a ballet? And he was like, no. And I was like, oh man, okay. Have you ever seen an opera? And he was like, no. And I was like, okay, this is going to be really tough. Because he's like, how do you tell a story without words? And I'm like, well, you know, think about music videos that you've seen that tell a story, right? So it's like a massive music video made up of a bunch of different songs that tell a story.
And again, each one could stand on its own, but I think they're far more interesting when seen all in one sitting, so you understand the context of everything. Yeah,
you're right. They do. They can break away and be their own thing and live and breathe that way, but all together, you know, there's callbacks to other things, those little Easter eggs in there. Yeah. And then we shot it like a movie too. So it wasn't like a typical live concert stream.
Yeah. It
was on a stage, which I had originally toyed with that idea. I don't know if you've seen Chicago with Catherine Zeta-Jones. And,
of course.
Okay.
Saw it on Broadway as well.
Did you? Okay,
Oh,
cool.
hell yeah. Yeah.
Oh, that'd be amazing. I originally wanted to shoot it like that, where it went from movie dialogue to stage performance and then cut back to movie again, because I really thought that was interesting. And then I just said, you know what, let's just go big. Let's just shoot it like a fucking movie. So we just did it.
See, but that's what gave everything sort of an overall conceptual continuity that I think would have been lost, because you were able to get a bit more of a narrative structure with that than I think if you had gone just a straight up performance thing.
I agree. I think so too. And it kind of benefited me in a weird way for our live show, because when you go see the live show, obviously we can't, take you into the desert or anything like that, but we can do things to show and give that feel. And we'll have video in our live show to help, push that narrative. But, it'll be like the Disney on Ice version of Macabre, the film, if you will. And yeah, so, but yeah, in a really weird way, this pandemic and shooting Macabre in this cinematic format kind of helped our show. Yeah.
Here's a quick aside. I'd be curious to hear, who's your insurance agent? Because they got to salivate when you walk in, because it's like, hey, what's your act? Well, first we start with the fire and the sparks, and then the aerialists fly in. Then we're going out to the desert. Now, I'm thinking that just can't be cheap or easy to do this stuff.
No, we have a $4 million insurance policy.
Oh,
we do. As professionals in this act, you have to have it. We would be stupid not to. And so there are insurance agencies that do cover these kinds of acts. So yes, we absolutely have an insurance policy. Have to. Oh man.
One other thing I would like to speak about, and I'm loath to sort of give people advice like this, but for someone who is new to Cherry Bombs, maybe the best place to start is Girl Gang. Tell me about that, because that really from the get-go sort of explains everything that's going on.
Yeah. And really you're hitting it all on the head. We were finding that Cherry Bombs was such a tough thing to describe to people. When people would see pictures of us at, say, Loudwire released something about us or whatever, people would be like, oh, look at this band. And we'd be like, no, we're not a band. So it was just flying over people's heads too much. And I thought, well, what's something we can put out there that helps people understand how this operates, and also at the same time gives our fans an inside look as to how we function and how we operate, and that we're not just these half naked women on a stage shaking their ass, for lack of a better term, because I think that's easy to assume that. And I kind of wanted to give more of a humanistic side to what we do for our audience. And two, on top of that, since we're not a band, we don't have a single to push. If we're not performing live, we're not really doing much. So live performances is how we survive. And when we're home and during our downtime, I needed something to continue to be part of the conversation, if you will. So if I were to kind of, I don't know, relate it to a band or a musician, I would say that Girl Gang is sort of like an album for us, or sort of like a single for us to push when we're in between tours or in between performances, just for content and whatnot. So yeah, it's a docu-reality series. It's mini episodes, about 8 to 10 minutes long each on average, about 4 episodes per season, and they're kind of wild. We just turn the camera on and let it go, and whatever happens, that's what we capture.
It's an interesting life, isn't it?
Yes. Yes, very much so. It's much different than I think than people realize.
And one last thing, how do you and the rest of the troupe stay healthy and in shape? And I ask that because A, this is very physically demanding. B, much like athletes, I'm guessing you're getting banged up quite a bit, and the show still must go on. So tell me about the aspect of that.
Yeah, myself and all of my performers are training all the time, if not in their skill set in the gym. They're running, they're lifting. We here in Vegas, we actually have a fitness sponsor here. So we have a personal trainer who works with us on our nutrition and trains us all throughout the week. And she'll actually be sending us our fitness program for the road when we're on tour, because we're probably not going to be eating the best, and we're probably not going to be sleeping that great. So she's going to be on us the entire time, actually. So we're very thankful to have her. But like you said, I mean, I don't know if you saw the first season of Girl Gang, but I really messed up my ankle in a show in one of the episodes. And like you said, the show must go on. Like
Yeah, that's why I brought it up. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. I was like, I think I really thought I broke my foot. And then I could realize I could put a little bit of weight on it. And I was like, okay, I can get through this. And I had to play guitar for the next song. And I was just like hobbling out. I could do this. I totally got it. I'm fine. And then right after that show, I was like, I don't know who's around, but I need a glass of wine, like stat, like just wine me, someone wine me before I look at this. I need to prepare myself. And we pulled off that sock, and you see it in that episode, and it looked like a baseball was on.
Yeah, it's kind of grotesque, no offense.
Oh, watching that video and back in slow-mo playback, it was like, oh man, and it sucked. And I quickly realized the older you get, the slower you are to heal. And my ankle took me out for I didn't perform for like 9 months, I think, 6 months, 6 to 9 months. I was doing physical therapy, and it just didn't feel the same. And now I can tell what the weather is going to change with my ankle.
Like, you sound like my grandmother in that aspect. It's like, oh, my corns are burning.
Yeah. Yeah. Here comes the storm. I can feel it.
I'll tell you what, I got to tell you, from the physical standpoint, the most impressive thing is that you can stay in shape in Las Vegas, because you have In-N-Out burgers there. And if I lived in a city that had In-N-Out burgers, I'd weigh twice what I do now.
Going all the time. I do like In-N-Out burgers. Their fries not so much, but the burgers are very good. And then Corey and I went plant-based. So we haven't had a burger, like a real proper burger. I don't think In-N-Out makes a plant-based burger yet, but yeah, I mean, I don't blame you at all. So that has helped. So going plant-based will help you avoid the burgers if you ever need to or feel like doing it.